Hello and welcome to Blog Tornado. How are you? And today we're going to talk about something regarding Bob Lazar's and the 9 UFOs that were found in S4. Now, let's say the story is real and those 9 UFOs are in possession of US military, or at least one that is genuine, that we actually have in our hands, that military actually has them in their hands. What could this mean to us for our humanity? Well, this is the thing. You can look at it from different angles, and for instance, the technology that Bob Lazar was describing while he was inside in one of those UFOs pretty much says it all. It says that it's highly advanced, that is something that we can't really use or replicate because such technology is way out of our reach to understand. So he says it's pretty much useless to us, which is understandable. We don't have anything remotely close to able to contain antimatter and distort time and space. So this kind of technology is better off to be put aside for now. But it could simply be some sort of a message from aliens if this whole situation is true. Now, what is this message I'm talking about? Well, simple. The message is that it tells us where in time, in space, we are with the rest of the universe. Are we way behind? Are we at the front? But in this case, as we can see from the technology they left behind for us to examine, it says a lot where we are in point of time with the rest of the universe. If we cannot understand the technology, then that simply tells us that we are probably way behind. And not because we are not capable of catching up, but it's because they had a head start in evolution. So of course they're able to get to this point of technology they possess. So as far as we go, we weren't so lucky, so therefore we are probably behind, judging from the technology that Bob Lazar was talking about, able to distort time and space, flying of speed of light, and for all we know, even the speed of light could be something that is no longer used by aliens. They could have been traveling by using different means of laws of physics. So that's another thing to consider. So again, the technology tells us a lot that we are not nearly as ahead of the rest of the universe. We're quite behind. So now, did they leave those 9 UFOs for us to kind of jump forward, to move forward faster in our evolution? Is there something approaching that we don't understand yet, some kind of force that might have a catastrophic effect on us, such as a big asteroid and hitting the Earth, or a black hole sucking us in? Who knows? But maybe those 9 UFOs were perhaps some sort of escape pods for us to use. But again, I know for a fact that aliens pretty much do many things because they think in ahead of us, and pretty much every move they make, it's well thought of, okay? They know what the future will bring after they expose us to such technology, and therefore it could not have some sort of negative effect for us, but instead, rather, we can learn a lot from it, and perhaps this push in evolution was necessary for us to survive. Now, as I talked about it before, why we need to get to Mars soon. In my previous video, in one of my earlier videos, and I talk about possible disasters that could actually threaten us, because basically we're leaving all the eggs in one basket, which is, eggs is us and basket is our Earth. And what that means is, if something catastrophic is to happen to our Earth and our existence is in jeopardy, then we really don't have a plan B. So we're pretty much stuck here like sitting ducks. So the question is, why were there 9 UFOs? Although I do talk about them being prototypes, okay, I understand. That also could be truth, that perhaps they were nothing more but military prototypes, and then perhaps there was more that were actually authentic UFOs. So not all of them were authentic, but Bob Lazar does talk about some of them being digged up as some sort of archaeological find, and that could have been authentic UFO. So we don't know where that UFO came from, but I see some footage on internet about some smaller size UFOs that are being digged out in Russia and some other places, and I will leave the link in below, you can check out. But please stay with me for now so we can discuss why those UFOs, those particular UFOs were left behind, if they were real. Again, it tells us a lot about where we are in time, so we could be really behind the rest of the universe. And perhaps there are more habitable planets with lesser intelligence that are really behind even us. So, but again, why were those 9 UFOs left for us to play with, basically? And that is the question. And it's something that does come to my mind regarding this, and but it does clearly show where we are in time if those UFOs were authentic, because it just tells us that we are we need some catching up to do. And is there a reason for that? Why would aliens interfere with us and give us the hand, but to move forward? But now, interesting point that I want to talk about, so please stay with me so we can get this out of the way. It's very interesting that the power that the aliens possess, and we do hear some stories about them being actually kind of bad guys in a way, and their methods of as far as abductions go and so forth are quite harsh on people, because many abductees report not that they were just afraid of them, but also the way they doing experiments on people, which includes a lot of pain. If you've seen Fire in the Sky about Travis Walton takeoff on his true story about his experience with aliens. Now that movie kind of shows what possibly could happen once you're abducted, and someone on my channel so commented about that, them having an experience with aliens, which is actually negative, and he doesn't wish upon anybody to have such experience with aliens. So it actually ruined his life. So his channel is called Psychosis is Fun, and he commented below my previous video, and it's something to think about. But I honestly, personally, I believe that aliens realize that they really cannot go any further beyond our shield, which is death. And what is the point of killing us or get rid of us if they would done that actually a long time ago? But really there's no point, because once we're dead, they really cannot do anything to us anymore. So, who knows? You jump into a volcano, and if you do something to yourself before you fall into a volcano, you'll never feel the pain, right? And so they think, well, what is the point? We cannot touch them after death. So perhaps we'll just, try to see what we can do to perhaps to experiment with them, see what beneficial things they can get from us. And that's why I think abductions are always happening, and there's a lot of tools present and so forth, examination tables, and because perhaps they're doing something to us as far as genetics goes, and they're trying to modify our genetics and so forth. So we're pretty much like guinea pigs to them. And especially these orbs in the sky, they're constantly watching us. I strongly feel they are watching us, and it's quite evident on, I talked about that before, it's quite evident on $1 American bill. So again, please stay with me so we can get to this point here. I'll try to explain to you what Illuminati symbol means. Now, as you know, Illuminati means illuminating, so light, illuminating light. And then if you have and also you can see the pyramid is hovering up in the air, so that tells you that whatever is represented on $1 American bill, it's basically hovering in the air. And not just that, but it shows an eye, which represents basically that somebody's watching us, and it's also saying there's an intelligence behind this eye. So eye in the sky basically to me is a lot to do with orbs, because I strongly feel that they're pretty much watching us. So please comment below. I talked about this before. And I also apologize about my previous video about UFO orb phenomena. It's called UFO orb phenomena, and I talk about orbs, and I kind of feel down, so I just want to apologize because something happened to my cat, so I'm really down about this right now. The fact that she has a flesh-eating disease is just breaking my heart right now, so I'm been feeling kind of down, and you probably noticed, especially in that video. I watched it back and I said, oh my god, yeah, I didn't even realize when I was watching, I was feeling so down about it. I really hope she recovers. Yeah, be careful of cat scratches, okay? It's it can actually cause an infection in other cats. I mean, you have no control of that, but if you have a cat around that likes to fight and likes to scratch other cats, be careful, because it can actually cause flesh-eating disease, and you don't want that. You're gonna have to treat them with antibiotics, and as soon as you can, because that disease spreads within days or 2 days. You'll see, you can put a finger inside the body of the cat once it starts to eat the flesh away. It's just like a sudden thing. So you will see some rashes at first, which you won't think of it much. The hair is gonna fall out. The next thing you know, after 2 days or 3 days, you can actually see holes inside the meat. So just to sorry, off topic here, but just to look it up, cat scratches. As far as again this orbs phenomena, I am very it's very suspicious to me, and it kind of goes by sort of being, people are not talking about it much. To me, in my eyes, it's a very mysterious situation, and that it is very realistic, that is really happening. Now, is there a possibility that we can actually harvest those kind of orbs? Or would we be able to get some kind of energy out of them, that they can actually power our homes? So that's another question that could come up. But if they're very highly intelligent, then I doubt it that we can actually get a hold of those orbs. And so that's one thing to consider regarding orbs. And I'm witness of orbs, and basically they're just they're lights in the sky, and they're very silent. They're able to fly in straight formations. They change colors to white to orange, and that's their common most likely behavior, and obviously multiplying. From one orb comes another orb, comes another orb. So that's something to look for if you're looking to checking some footages about orbs on YouTube, so you know which ones are authentic. So again, this whole situation with Bob Lazar with 9 UFOs, it's just a thought that, you know, perhaps is some sort of a message from aliens that are basically telling us where in time we could be, and they're giving us some sort of help perhaps to move forward. And again, also something that comes to my mind, which is rather interesting to think about, is if those aliens basically, if we are some sort of special, a little bit different from the rest of the universe, or maybe very rare, to say the least, then aliens might be very interested in us. They don't understand or whatnot, but maybe in their eyes we're actually very valuable, and maybe we're very, very rare around the universe. Maybe there is not many planets like ours, there's not species like us out there, and we could be actually a valuable asset to them of some sort. And speaking about aliens, you know, there's also a possibility that, because from one story that I heard, and I will talk about it, they have an alien abduction, and they talk about how these aliens are moving very robotically, like their hands are moving robotically, almost if they were mechanical or artificial intelligence. Now the question is, were there some beings like us on a different planet, like maybe even Zeta Reticuli, that perhaps they had developed an artificial intelligence at some point? Because it's quite evident right now in our evolution that we already evolved as far as we can, as far as our appearance goes. And now what is the next step? Now this record, and I talk about one of my video why I think the universe is like a record player, and if you watch that you'll understand that perhaps, you know, us being like a record, you know, record has a beginning and end. Now record represents our evolution, and the needle represents our time, and the whole universe is basically a record player. But we are that record, and what is going to happen once the record is starting to reach towards the middle, towards the end? What will happen next? And I think this whole idea about artificial intelligence, it's one of more reasonable answers to that. Could what we're seeing, what we think those aliens are, with big eyes and so forth, could they be some sort of artificial intelligence that perhaps humans or someone that look like us or think like us created, and then eventually they took over, and whatever happened to the race of humans that created those artificial intelligence, which are now what we call UFOs, what happened to them? Because there's some stories about Zeta Reticuli, and I don't know if you followed Zeta Reticuli with me before. Bob Lazar, Zeta Reticuli 2, Decoded. I talk about how 3 of these abduction stories, Barney and Betty Hill stories, and also Bob Lazar's story, and Ivan's channel 0135, are all about this particular Zeta Reticuli solar system or planet. And how come they all talk about Zeta Reticuli? Now, do those people know each other? That's the main question that came up in that video that I talked about. How do they know about Zeta Reticuli? So if they don't know about it, then again, the story came out in 1961, Barney and Betty Hills, one of the most widely publicized stories in US history, and at the beginning, and basically later on it ended up at S4 at Area 51 with Bob Lazar's story about Zeta Reticuli. So how did those supposedly if they both talk about them being from Zeta Reticuli, then that UFO came from Barney and Betty Hill's story somehow ended up in S4, because Bob Lazar talks about that. He talks about these UFOs that they told him they were from Zeta Reticuli. So anyways, if what really happened in that planet, or did something bad happen, some kind of catastrophe, some kind of war, and perhaps those aliens have escaped from there, and who knows why are they here. But it does pose some questions if they're real, like what exactly is going on. Are they actual, from what I'm seeing, honestly, is basically they do look like organic in a way, not mechanical, but it could have been some kind of mixture of biotechnology, of biomechanics, and perhaps they're not pure organic. So that is the question as well, if because their behavior towards people seems like they're very rough, as if they had no feelings. Again, psychosis is fun. The person who commented below my video regarding the aliens being evil, it shows to me a lot. I mean, in many stories, in many abduction stories that I hear, it seems to me they're a little bit of robotic nature. And actually one of the stories truly talks about that. Their movements a lot like robotics. In a way. So that is another question, if they're actually artificial intelligence, that they were created by some kind of humans or some kind of species like us, organics, and then basically they become self-aware, and they took over or whatnot. We don't always necessarily appreciate our life in some cases. Some people don't. They don't necessarily think God is the greatest, and and there could be some kind of the same could happen with aliens. Perhaps they don't think that their creator is not necessarily as good as he could have been, and perhaps they turned on him, and we don't know where exactly if these beings are actually a mixture of artificial intelligence and organics, or they're fully biomechanical or whatnot, or mechanical. So those are some of the questions that comes up. But again, getting back to Bob Lazar's story with 9 UFOs, again, we have to, first of all, we have to appreciate the fact that he actually told the story. Even, again, we cannot say from what angle whether he told her the truth or not. Again, I talk about that, it could have been for fame, and as you know, it's a great fame, and he did succeed in that, if that was the case. But I'm not saying it is. I'm also, you have to look at you have to look at things from different angles all the time. So let's say from today we're looking at it as if the story was real. And so what does it mean, those 9 UFOs? He talks about the technology behind it and so forth, and to me that's very exciting, because the fact that they're here on Earth as we speak right now, that could mean a lot for our humanity, but it could also mean a booby trap. It's like sort of like Stephen King's movie, Needful Things. People come into the shop and they would like to have this and like to have that, and then accidents happen after that. And again, those presents, were those UFOs some sort of a presence? Like, as you know, Bob Lazar talks about that. He was able to go inside it and even touch it at some point, and able to look at the gravity amplifiers and so forth. This kind of technology, could actually destroy us. It could bring us to our knees, because just for the fact of human nature, of greed, that it's a factor all the time, and having something like this in possession is pretty much what Stephen King's Needful Things, similar to that kind of situation. We're getting to we like glittery things, and that's the case. That's our problem as far as humanity, our nature goes. So God knows what will happen to those UFOs, or what has happened, or what not. But I'm sure that a lot of countries are interested in China, Japan, who knows, France, Russia. They're very interested in this technology. So, maybe they would like to have UFO technology. And of course, that definitely attracts a lot of problems, a lot of tension. And but we don't know exactly what's going on with those UFOs. Where are they now? But there are some reports of higher ranks generals in military that they have these UFOs in their possession, and they're actually bringing it out again to study, because I think that the main conclusion was either there was nothing to study, they just cannot decode this technology, or again, it's too advanced to even think about playing with it, because it could also be very dangerous if it actually possesses antimatter as fuel. Because antimatter, pretty much anything that antimatter comes in contact with will pretty much destroy it, annihilate it. And if these UFOs possess such technology, they're containing antimatter, then who knows, if they're not being looked after properly, those UFOs could be nothing more but death to us. So we're holding something that could actually potentially be extremely dangerous to our humanity. As you know, nuclear weapons will flatten everything out, but when it comes to antimatter, it will eat the actual nuclear weapon, and any kind of matter that it comes in contact with, there will be no ground to flatten. And that's the power of antimatter. So nothing on Earth at the moment can contain antimatter. And then again, as Bob Lazar talks about it, he simply says this kind of technology is pretty much useless to us. We just can't understand it at the moment. But not just that. Like I said, there could have been some sort of weapons at the moment that basically we can. They could be actually threat or danger to us because they possess antimatter as a fuel. So, so some of the things to think about as far as those 9 UFO goes. But again, if we're able to do understand some of that technology, then again, there's a lot that we can learn from. But I highly doubt it that we can skip thousands of years of evolution and get right to the point, and then skip that part of the evolution and get right to the technology and understand it. But like I said, I highly doubt it that we can do that right off the bat. I mean, it will take years and years before we can actually open this thing up and understand the guts of this thing. So again, we have this, this orbs just flying around all around the world, and we see these symbols of Illuminati pretty much all around the world. And what do they really mean? I mean, it's certainly something that to think about. What are they? It's some sort of a gang, or what the heck is going on? And we should try to understand or take Illuminati symbol more seriously, even though it's in front of our eyes every day as far as American dollar bill goes. And what does it really mean? So I guess a lot of us just are so accustomed to it, we don't think about it much. But I believe there is some greater force at work here, as I talked about it before, basically, it says that this is your dollar, American dollar bill. It's made out of your trees, out of paper, and it has your ink on it, green ink, and your presidents and numbers and the designs. But wait a minute, this symbol here is ours on government's money, which means that they are in control, or at least partially in control of something. And that's the mystery behind this whole idea. What exactly is going on here? It's got to tie in with, it does tie in with pyramids for some reason. Were pyramids built to for some kind of interstellar travel, that basically they were created to bring whoever wanted to come to Earth, that visit us, whatever these extraterrestrials are, was that needed to be created in order for them to arrive to our planet. As you know, Stargate, if you have seen that movie, has some vague idea, something about pyramids actually being flying vehicles and so forth. But there, if anything, it's a big mystery. Why would something like that just stick out like a sore thumb out of our history? And the same thing goes for unexplained things goes for orbs. They're also very hard to explain, and they've been throughout our history, as far as we can tell. And what are those things? Question is, are they watching us? So that's pretty much what I would like to talk about today. And again, I apologize for some of my previous videos. I feel really down because of my cat, so I hope you understand. It's been kind of hard on me. But and again, so if you're I do post every second day, every third day, or every day, about anything that I can find regarding. I'm on a hunt for UFOs with this channel. As you know, I am a UFO witness, and I don't know if you know, but just in case, if you watch my previous video, I talk about my experience with orbs, and you can read about it at blogtornado.com in UFO section. I wrote an article about UFO and orb phenomena, and you can compare the stories if you'd like. If you're somebody, and yes, that's what I need to say, if you have some sort of story to share, or just a little bit that happened to you that was something unusual, I talk about it in my previous video called a real UFO encounter. If you want to check that video out, something happened to me that I cannot explain. Just before I started this channel, or somewhere at the beginning, but it does relate to my channel, which is a funny thing, and it has something to do with some kind of strange sound that came from my window, and was getting closer and further away from my window, and that's the only viable information that I have there. And you might want to see that video, what happened, so maybe you can relate to that somehow, or probably you had some sort of different experience, and that's what I think you probably did have, maybe with orbs or something that you see that was not explained, or a UFO, or some kind of alien creature, or gray aliens, who knows, you want to share with. It doesn't have to be necessarily about UFOs, but anything that is unusual, whether it's something to do with Matrix or another dimension or something like that. Please do talk to me about that, or leave a comment and see what other people think of this. That would be much appreciated. But again, I would like to thank you if you stay all the way down here until now with me. I know I talk a lot. I apologize about that. That's why I added a little bit of music at the background, so it's not as boring. But again, just talk about UFOs and things. If you enjoy that kind of topics, that will be this channel. It's less about entertainment, okay? It's more about real facts, and that's what I hope this channel will achieve eventually, to get more to the facts of things rather than just talk. So and that's why I would appreciate if you leave some comments. Maybe perhaps you have something to say that we can expand on and talk about it. That could also help my channel for sure. And that's pretty much all. And I would like to, if you like, you can subscribe here at the bottom right and give it a thumbs up. That will be much appreciated. Or hit the notification button, and you'll get my videos right away. Like I said, I post every second day, every third day, every day. So that's would be what I do. Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for staying, and please come back to see what's going on. All right, cheers, take care.